welcome everyone to Pastors of Payne. It is great to be here. It's summertime in Payne County. What could be better? I'm Father Brian O'Brien, pastor of St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church here in Stillwater. Father Carey is at the dentist. He's going on sabbatical. He leaves this Saturday. It's very sad. He's going to be gone for 2 months. I don't know what I'm going to do without my trusted friend. We're going to have a lot of guests on the show. We are actually going to record some episodes Friday, so we'll have a few for like later in June. And anyway, so you'll get a little dose of Father Carey in your summertime. But today we have a very special guest. He's a busy man, and so he's hard to nail down. And today we made it happen. The Vocation Director of the Diocese of Tulsa and the future Vice-Rector of the North American College in Rome, Father Michael Pratt. Welcome.
Greetings,
Yes.
friends, and
I love it.
Thank
I love
you.
it.
Great to be with you.
I love it. So Father Pratt is a unique guest because we like to have priests and seminarians and like talk about our life and like evangelization in Payne County. But Father Pratt is he's like from here. He's like from Stillwater. Like
I was born like a couple miles away.
You were born at Stillwater Medical Center.
Yes.
Grew up here. That's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, tell us about that. What is you forever and ever. You were what year? How old are you?
I am 38 years old.
Nice. Amazing.
November 9th, 1984.
There it is.
At 7:53 a.m., which my mom reminds me every single year on my birthday.
The feast of St. John Lateran. Right?
Dedication of St.
Oh,
John.
the dedication of
Yeah.
St. John Lateran. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about growing up in Stillwater. What was that like, especially as a Catholic? What was that?
Yeah, it was great. So my mom and my dad, Mona
Tell us
and Gary
about the
Pratt,
80s, the 80s in
the 80s.
Stillwater.
I was born in 84, and so my memories of the 80s are a little slight, but it was I loved it. My parents were both Catholic. We were raised Catholic, my brother and I, our whole family, and went to public schools here: Richmond Elementary School, Stillwater Middle School,
Rockets.
Stillwater Junior High. I was actually in the first class that the school was built in like 1990.
Oh, wow.
And I was the first class to go kindergarten through 5th grade in Richmond Elementary.
Historic.
Grew up in the neighborhood right next to it called Parkview Estates. At the time, there were bazillions of kids. It was like the Shire. If you were a kid and lived in you ran around all the time. Woods, pool, capture the flag in the summertime.
The roller skating rink.
Wiffle ball, roller skating rink across the street.
Across Richmond.
Across Richmond Road. You got to get across
love
that road. But once you were there.
It's now Stillwater Christian School.
Yeah. So we,
Yeah.
all the kids would walk to school every day or ride their bikes to school every day to Richmond. So just right there. Loved it. Like, some people.
You do talk about, Father Pratt and I have been friends for, I don't know, a long time. And when you talk about growing up in Stillwater, there's a joy, there's a nostalgia that comes back. We were driving, like yesterday we were driving in Stillwater, and you're just like pointing out neighborhoods and, oh yeah, this girl I had a crush on in 6th grade used to live there. And, anyway, you just have it seemed to be like Stillwater was a great place to grow
It's a
up.
cozy place to come back to. I lived here, so I graduated high school, went to OSU for 2 years, very involved. And so, first 20 years of my life was spent right here in Payne County, in Stillwater. And so just a lot of memories, coming of age and memories and friends, all that, pretty much most streets here are going to spark some sort of memory or of some sort. And so it's very, in a lot of ways, comforting to come back. And there's a neat thing, too. The moment I step over the boundary line of Payne County into the world outside of here, everybody calls me Father Pratt. Which is, I'm a priest.
Yes,
that's good.
That's good.
But one foot inside Stillwater realm.
This is
and
true.
it immediately switches over to Mikey.
Even I went one time to a Stillwater High School baseball game, and I'm looking at, you guys I think you made the state tournament or state, anyway, and there's a list of all the players on the team. And like, there it is in print. Like Mikey
Pratt.
That's what I called you forever.
I think of myself as Mikey.
Oh.
I'm like, Mikey, that was a terrible homily. Come on, do better next time.
Who's
Like, I think like
When
when I
you-
refer
when
to
you
myself,
talk to yourself,
when I talk to myself,
that's very
I'm
funny.
I call myself Mikey.
That's very funny.
So that's cozy too.
Yeah.
You know, to come back and it's just familiar and it's people I've known since I was 3 and
That's awesome.
so.
What did your parents do for a living?
So my father worked for Southwestern Bell Telephone Company for over
Nice.
30 years.
Yeah.
Later. And my mother was a nurse by trade, Stillwater Medical Center, and
Okay.
then different positions here and there. And actually, so Father Gary Castle,
Yes.
priest of the Diocese of Tulsa, his mom and my mom were like friends as young nurses together.
Is that right? I
in Stillwater.
didn't know that.
Yeah. They go
And then
back.
you were friends with the now Father Paul Scheller.
Yes. So Father Paul's younger brother Dale and I were on the same baseball team for
It all
years.
comes back to baseball, doesn't it?
It does. I love it. I just love it. But Father Paul and I, at the time, Andy.
Oh yeah,
that's-
formerly known as Andy.
Yeah. So shortly before
He became a monk. That's why he changed his name.
Yeah. And so yeah, we I've known him long time. Been
That's
friends since I was
amazing.
in high school.
So Stillwater High School, you graduated what year? 2000.
2003. This is my 20-year
Oh,
reunion is coming up this fall, and I will not be able to go.
oh,
That's
because
like
we'll get to
that's
that
a
later.
bummer.
We'll get to
Okay.
that later. Father Pratt is about to go on a great new adventure. Okay, so then this is, I think, something people don't understand, like about going to seminary. Guys go, so you can talk about this both kind of personally and as you're in your job as vocation director. People go to seminary at different times of life.
Mm-hmm.
So we have guys who go you can go right out of high school.
Yep.
Like this year we have two new guys, 2 of our 5 new seminarians who literally graduated from high school
A week ago.
and this fall will be in a seminary. Now they have the long road, 9 years,
Probably 8.
8
yeah.
years, yeah. But then guys, you can if you're in the middle of college and you're like, oh my gosh, I think God's calling me to be a priest, like you can go, you can leave college and go, or in my case, I graduated from college, had a job, and then when we have guys who have had jobs for 20 years, they're in their 30s, late 30s, early 40s. So in your case, you went to OSU.
Yep.
And then left midway through.
So I graduated high school in 2003, go Pioneers, and then went to OSU, and honestly, I mean, sometimes you hear stories about people hit rock bottom, and then they start looking at other alternatives, and am I still living my life rightly and things. I loved it, man. I was happy. I was involved when OSU was a beta in a fraternity. Was very involved with St. John Catholic Newman, the university's parish here.
Mm-hmm.
And retreats and Wednesday night late masses and all that stuff, and dated and but God, just over time I could not stop thinking about being a priest. I could not stop thinking about it.
Jesus, he's pesky.
He's persistent. That's
Comes
right.
at you.
Yeah, and so adoration and mass, and I remember as a sophomore in college, watching the priest kind of pacing back and forth preaching, and just going I think I can do that.
I could do that.
I think I could do that.
I could do it.
Yeah. And so, after 2 years there, I just got tired. I've been thinking about that point for about 4 or 5 years. And my friends knew
So
that.
you started first time you thought about priesthood, you were
Father Bob Schlitt, Payne County.
Of blessed
people
memory.
will know that
Yeah.
name. I was probably 15 years old, and he took me to dinner, and we were at Goldie's.
of blessed memory. Yeah.
And halfway through the meal, he just asked. He just said, what? Have you ever thought about being a priest? And I had not. And it was
Wow.
no and heck no.
Father Bob Schlitt was
And it started there.
we have a lot. I think we have 70 priests in the diocese, maybe, right? 70 active priests, something like that. And I'll bet 10% of them would go back to a conversation with Father Bob Schlitt as a major impetus to them going to seminary.
Yeah. It started
That's a
there.
lot.
I told him, heck no. I'm not thinking about this. I don't want to. I'd like to, have about 12 kids one day and yada, yada, yada. And he, but that just, and then afterwards, I loved my Catholic faith at that point, was learning a lot about it. And after that, it just slowly, like a seed, just started to grow, and started thinking about it once a month. And then a little while later, it was once every couple weeks. And then it was kind of regularly, when I was at Mass, I was thinking about it. And then pretty soon it got to the point, fast forward to as a sophomore at Oklahoma State, that multiple times a day, I was like thinking, it was getting kind of annoying, you know?
Yeah.
Apparently, so I ran, yeah, anyway, we won't go there.
No, yeah. Okay, so major priest influences, Father Bob.
Father Bob.
Who else?
Father Ken Harder.
Father Ken Harder,
Yes,
yeah.
I went to confession to him a lot, and he was always just kind of compassionate and kind of in his own sometimes vulgar way, surprisingly like honest way. He
Not like vulgar bad, but like a
whoa,
yeah. He has kind of like a I like it too, like a directness that's very refreshing.
An honesty to him that he's not afraid to say it. So Father Ken Harder, Father Joe Townsend,
Yep.
Big impact. He was a pastor at St. John's. I did as a high school business class, and you could like job shadow a priest for a day, and I job shadowed him just to see what it was like. And shortly after arriving, he got like a hospital call. We went to the hospital, and I watched him like minister to a dying lady.
Yeah.
And I like still like think about that, and I was just inspired how he just brought Christ. He brought Christ.
Yeah.
It was a sad situation. It was a difficult situation. She's dying, family's crying, and he just like he brought peace to that. And I saw that and was like, Lord, if you want me to do that like with my life, bring it on.
Wow.
I'm happy to do that.
That's awesome.
Very meaningful.
All right, so you literally left OSU. I mean, you not drop out, but like you transferred.
Yep.
You were accepted as a seminarian for the diocese, but we don't send our seminarians to OSU.
Nope.
No, we send them to a seminary. All right, so you left Stillwater for the first time.
Yep.
And off to
St. Paul, Minnesota.
It's a big change.
Big change. St. Paul, Minnesota. There's a seminary there called St. John Vianney, and talk about priest influences. The rector of the seminary, who is the president, like runs the show, his name is Father Bill Bear, and he just was
of blessed memory.
Yeah, I would say of like major influences, not just on my priesthood but on my life, like my dad, number one.
Yep.
And I would say like Father Bear.
Yeah.
Probably Bishop Muggenberg.
Yeah.
And then there's like everybody
else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not that they're all equal, but I mean, they're like those are just so Father Bear was a huge impact on my life. Just very inspirational, and
he had a directness.
He was the man.
Man, that's awesome.
You had
that's
kind
awesome.
of a holy fear of him too.
Yeah.
Like there was a respect that you just did not like want to disappoint him, or you would probably melt. And so like there was I think a healthy, I don't know, like you don't want like the general, you don't want to like make him mad.
Yeah. All right. So you were there how long? St. Paul?
2 years. 2 years. And so what a lot of people don't realize is you don't wait until you're 100% sure that I'm going to be a priest, and then I become a seminarian.
Right.
That's a common misconception that guys will often have in their minds. I mean, but a better analogy is this is something I'm strongly thinking about. I'm open to it. I'm willing to do it. I'm going to dive in and see. And we're going to take it 1 year at a time and dive into, there's going to be daily mass. There's going to be spiritual direction.
Yeah, confession all the time.
I mean, all
and
that
then just,
stuff.
Philosophy and theology. And
then in that environment, if the shoe fits, you keep going. If it doesn't, you realize it's not for you, you discern out. And so, I mean, a lot of people declare a major and then don't actually go on into that field. They think they like it, then they get into it and talk to professionals and teachers and get to practicing architecture, and they go, actually, I actually stink at this, and so or I don't actually like this field, so I'm going to switch paths. And so, becoming a seminarian is a loose analogy would be declaring a major in some ways. Diving in and seeing. I'm not really looking at anything else at this point. I'm going to dive in, and we're going to see like if this is what God has in store for me.
I love that. All right, so you finish at St. John Vianney, and then so you're still a seminarian. So in the seminary world, the diocese sends you where we think you ought to go.
Yep. So different than the college world, high school out, they apply to several colleges and they get accepted by some and they then choose which one they go to. That's not how seminary works. So a guy applies to a diocese, which is the eastern side of Oklahoma for us, and then the diocese sponsors them and sends them to a seminary. And so I was told I was going to St. Paul, Minnesota.
Yep.
You were told St. Meinrad.
St. Meinrad. Yep.
And then you go. You go.
You're kind of your first step in obedience.
Yeah. So 2 very happy years at St. Paul, Minnesota. And that's where I think that this like thought of becoming a priest and like wondering, is it for me, really solidified into, I want this.
Yeah.
Like I think like I would love to live this lifestyle. And I feel like God created me actually to live this. That wasn't discovered until after I was a seminarian. Almost like you date for a while and then you realize, okay, I want to marry her, you know? And so there from St. Paul, Minnesota, was sent to the North American College in Rome, Italy, to study theology and to continue priestly training.
So what's the deal? Okay, because this is where. Okay, we'll come back to this of like what the North American College is and how that all works. Okay, so you did and you were in Rome how long?
I was in Rome for 5 years.
Yeah. So 4 as a seminarian, then you're ordained a priest, and then you go back and do like a 5th year, which is a whole longer explanation, which we another day. When
you become for you listeners out there, when you become a seminarian and get there, we'll have that conversation.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's inside baseball. Okay, you were ordained in what year?
2011, July 9th.
All right. So you've been a priest 12. It'll be 12 years.
Coming up on 12 years.
Coming up.
And I will honestly say, 12 years. There has never been a single moment where I have been like, did I make the right choice? Like, should I be thinking about other career options? Is this really for me? I just have never once I love it.
It's such.
We talk about how awesome priesthood is all the time. Like, I just love it. I mean, there's been bad days, for sure.
Yes,
there's been even tough seasons, you know. But there's never been a moment that has been like, Lord, really?
Did I really? What have I done? You know.
I've just never doubted it.
All right, so your first assignment was Christ the King.
An associate pastor at Christ the King, which is in Midtown Tulsa.
Yep, I was there too. That was cool.
The pastor was Monsignor Muggenberg, now
Bishop of Reno.
And then also chaplain at Bishop Kelly High School.
Oh, that's where, I mean, we knew each other before that, but we worked together.
You were the El Presidente.
Yeah, love it. And then, so then for the last, how long have you been Vocation Director?
Since 2017, 6 years.
6 years. What does a Vocation Director do all day?
Yep. Good question. Sleep till noon.
Yeah.
Watch The Walking Dead. Call a discerner for about 15 minutes, and then go back to The Walking Dead. No. So after Christ the King was a pastor in Bartlesville.
Oh, that's right.
For
I forgot
3.5 years.
Forgot about Bartlesville.
Yep. And so was a pastor. And I mean, that was really insightful. You know, there's being a. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like the difference between being a seminarian to being a priest, and the difference from being an associate pastor to a pastor is almost as
if we use a sports analogy, you know, I was watching the NFL draft a few weeks ago, and they just talk about like the speed, like even the difference between college football and the pros is like a lot of guys get blown away because it's just so much faster. Everyone was the best player on their college team, you know, and so there's a big difference between seminary life and the priesthood.
I mean, at some point, if it gets remotely difficult, Father Healy can just go, you know what? I think you should see Father O'Brien. You know, things.
And there is a difference between being an associate pastor to
and then a pastor. I mean, it's weighty. It's very weighty and insightful. Anyway, so that was very formative as well, being the head honcho at this church, and they had a school, pre-K through 8th grade school as well. So teachers and cafeterias and playgrounds and all that maintenance, all that stuff.
Wow.
And then in 2017 became the director of the vocations office, sometimes shortened to Vocation Director. So now I am not in a parish. For 6 years, I have not been you do weddings, you do baptisms, you do funerals, you got annulments, you're preaching to the people every Sunday, every day, daily mass. You're doing, you're visiting the sick and all those like wonderful things that priests do. I don't do any of that right now, except like on a priest gets COVID or something, I have to fill in.
Yeah, you jump in on occasion, yeah.
Yeah, kind of fill in basis. But for the most part, I have like kind of one job, and that is young men who are thinking about the priesthood, young ladies who are considering becoming religious, like nuns. I accompany them and listen to their stories and help them realize what these ways of life are like and offer support and resources and direction and ultimately help them realize, is this way of life for me? And if so, like, what's my next step? Or actually, it's not, you're not,
This is not for you.
Yeah, this is not for you.
And that's kind of a double-sided discernment. We've talked about this before, Father Carey and I on the show, of like, just because I want to be a priest doesn't mean I get to be a priest. Like, it's in the same as like, I want to marry you, but like, you don't want to marry me. Well, you know, yeah. So so the church is discerning you,
Yep.
or the religious order, or the diocese, and then you're doing the same. So it has to be mutual. And you're the the bishop's representative.
Yeah.
I
oversee
on the
that whole thing.
diocese side.
Yep.
Yeah. So the bishop is not like meeting with guys.
At Panera Bread.
Right, interested in, yeah. How much
That's
money
me.
have you spent at Panera over the last 6 years?
Panera is.
Do you own stock in Panera?
I would say on any given week, I have probably 5 to 7 meetings at Panera Bread.
I love that.
And so.
That's so funny. They're going to put a little plaque up in your memory.
And part of it is because, you know, somebody talking about becoming a priest is a big deal to them. You know, they're in high school, they're shaggy haired OSU student, or, you know, they're a young adult lady who's, you know, got a job for the first time, and now she's always pictured herself getting married and having a career, and now she's like feeling strong
Thinking about
tugs
religious
to like
life,
having only Jesus, and that's you know, that can be a frightening thought. And so, you know, a coffee shop there's coffee. I love cookies. It's public.
Yeah, it's not a.
It's good. It's conducive to comfortable conversation.
Let's meet in my office and.
Yeah.
Or it can be, kind of awkward. Okay, so you're done. Assignments came out, and you have a new assignment, which we'll talk about. But you're the new vocation director. Tell us about the new vocation director. Your replacement.
Yeah. So half of what I do are those who are in our diocese, who are high school age, college age, young adults who are asking questions about this. But the other part of the job is we kind of oversee the formation of our seminarians, our Tulsa seminarians. And so they go off to the seminaries, but the seminaries report to us, and we kind of work with them and make sure they're going to be, by the time they are ordained, that they're good priests ready to go in the Diocese of Tulsa. So that's the other part, the other wing of the vocation director's job, is kind of the recruitment side, but also care of the seminarians as well. So my successor, Father Zui Wen, he's been a priest, I think, 5 or 6 years.
I love him.
He is a ball of energy, and I think he's going to be so good.
So this was like 2 years ago. I was having kind of a tough week, and it was my third mass of the day, and I was tired. And I was in the middle of prayer, of the mass, and I was kind of distracted. I was annoyed. And in the middle of celebrating, of reciting the Eucharistic prayer, I had like this little vision, and it was Father Zui at his first Mass that he celebrated at St. Joseph Vietnamese Parish, and he's like holding up the Eucharist, and like tears are running down his face.
Wow!
And it got me like back. Okay, O'Brien, like focus. You're doing something of eternal importance. Stop being annoyed. Take a deep breath and like remember what we're here for. Anyway, and I told Zui that like the next day, and he was just like, "What? I don't." He was like kind of embarrassed by it, or like he didn't. Anyway, I just love him. I think he's going to be great.
He's so he's a refreshing personality. You know, like we joke sometimes. There's people that like suck the life out of you.
Yes.
You walk away from them like you're way more exhausted. You know, but he's like
not that.
He's like life giving.
Yes.
You know, you walk out like more battery charged, you know, ready to go. I think he's going to be, he's got a love for, he's been at Bishop Kelly High School for the last 4 or 5 years, knows youth ministry, knows where young people are, knows their struggles, their challenges, what gets them going, listens, you know, he knows that part of the church's ministry. And that's who he's going to be working with. You know, the vast majority of our scope are those 16 to, 20, 28 years old. That's going to be the majority of who we work with.
I love it. Okay, in our last 5 minutes, you have a new adventure
Oh boy.
coming up.
Yes.
So you talked about going to seminary at the North American College in Rome. So 2 questions. What is the North American College in Rome? What is that whole thing? And then you're leaving Stillwater, you're leaving Tulsa, you're moving back to Rome.
Yeah.
What is the North American College?
North American College is America's seminary in the city of Rome. So
every country has, or every...
a lot of countries. So there's a British college, there's a French college, there's an Irish college, there's a place for African nations can send their guys. And the idea is they go to Rome, which is like it's the epicenter of our Catholic
HQ.
faith. Yep. It's the kind of the headquarters, so to speak. The Pope is there, a lot of history there, going back all the way to the apostolic times. And so the idea is different countries will send their seminarians there to study, to train, to absorb all that just awesome stuff. Churches,
the heart
and
of the church,
history and art and architecture and saints. Like we have a relic of a saint here. It's a big deal. Well, there's probably there's the body of Saint Ignatius.
Yeah.
Is under this altar.
Yeah,
And so it's just really, St. Peter, who was like, the Last Supper and walked with Jesus, he's buried underneath St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. You can go there and pray. That's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
They gather that stuff, and it's formative for them. And then they go back to their home diocese of Tulsa or, wherever.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Wherever.
And ideally that shapes their priesthood. And they can use that to help the people of God. And so.
Okay, so you spent 5 years there.
Yep.
And it's staffed by American priests.
Yep.
Right? So it's literally right. I mean, if you've been there, if you walk out of the North American College and down the hill, you're at the Vatican.
Yep.
I mean, it's right there.
Yep.
You can go up on the roof of the North American College and you look out and you see St. Peter's.
Yep.
Okay, so it's staffed by American priests, and you're going to be one of those priests. What's your title, and what are you going to do all day?
So, as we kind of mentioned earlier, the rector of the seminary is like the president of the seminary.
Yeah, the pastor.
He's the pastor. He's the head man.
Yep.
So I'll be the vice-rector of the seminary. So essentially the vice president, just by way of analogy. Working with Monsignor Tom Powers, who's the rector, to make sure it's a kick-butt seminary.
So he's a priest of the Diocese of Bridgeport, Connecticut.
That's correct.
And you know him he was on the staff when you were there.
When I was a seminarian, he was my spiritual director for 5 years.
That's amazing.
He's a phenomenal guy.
All right, and what will you do all day?
We're going to help train future priests from the United States of America.
How many dudes?
There are currently a little over 100 seminarians there, and they come from California, New York, Minnesota, Texas, everywhere in between.
Everywhere.
They come from all over, all over.
Including our own Robert Williams.
Including Robert Williams.
So he'll be one of your guys.
Yep.
And when you say train them, what will you do?
Think of seminaries like priest school, So they're studying
priest school.
So they're learning to become. They're discerning is this way of life for them, but they're also preparing for ministry, and so they're learning about the Eucharist. But they also got to learn how to say Mass, right?
Yep.
So
how to hear confessions, how to counsel,
how to do a funeral, and our main job is to help them discern, but then help them form a close relationship with Christ. Become awesome pastors. So when they go back to the States in their diocese, they can feed the people of God. They can teach. They can visit people at their deathbeds. They can hug that homeless person. They can baptize. They funerals. All that stuff.
And know philosophy and know theology. So be knowledgeable, but also pastoral. So there's the four parts of formation: human formation, pastoral formation, spiritual formation, intellectual formation. And so you're going to be overseeing that. You're going to be kind of the second in command of a bunch of future priests.
That's right.
No pressure.
No pressure.
And you're excited, or you're nervous, or you're what?
I'm sad to leave the Diocese of Tulsa for a time. I'm sad. I love it here. My roots are here, but excited to help. We're going to be forming the future priests, and that makes a big impact on the church.
This was not done against your will.
No.
They've definitely asked you to come, and
hopefully,
that's awesome.
By the grace of God, we'll do an awesome job.
That's awesome. All right, everyone. Father Michael Pratt, thanks for joining us. Pray for him as he heads off to Rome, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Go Pokes.